Hello, I'm Chantal and I'm joined today by Paul. Hi, Paul, how are you doing?
Very well, Chantel. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good.
Good.
So, Paul and I thought that it would be really nice to have a conversation with ourselves. So, Paul, perhaps we should start off by telling the listeners a little bit more about ourselves. So, maybe I can start with you.
I have a mitral valve heart replacement. It's a titanium valve which involved open heart surgery. And this happened to me about 10 years ago, and is very hidden because it's inside of me. I was in my late 30s when it happened to me. And I was working in London. Um, I used to work up near Houston at the time, and I was at my office and at my desk in the morning, and I suddenly had issues with my eyesight and got a bit concerned about that and wandered around. Went upstairs and got a drink and thought it might disappear. Anyway, it didn't go away, so I rang my local GP up, and uh, the doctor, my local doctor, said to me, uh, "You need to be talking to uh, a specialist. You need to go to the A&E straight away." I had a series of tests, and I was told that I'd had a very minor kind of episode, like a stroke, by the doctor. Um, and then, just as I was told I could leave, a man came up to me and said to me, "You Mr. Shriver?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, your left mitral valve in your heart has collapsed, and you're going to need open heart surgery." The only way I can describe it is that it felt like it was like an out of body experience. It was like I was looking down on myself and seeing it and thinking that's not right. That can't be me. Things just seem to go quicker and quicker in life. So you're at home, and then you with your family, and then you get educated, and then you get a job, and things just seem to sort of snowball and gain more momentum. And so you find yourself not ever sort of pausing, really pausing. You're always running along, and even if you have a holiday, you've still got an agenda. You've still got something that you're doing. So
Yeah,
this
we're
was
all on a schedule, aren't we?
exactly, and I think this was the first real time in my life where I actually, when this was after the operation, obviously, where I was actually in a state of completely, I was just idle and just stopped.
How was that?
Yeah, and it was totally, you know, very, very different, and totally reset me and kind of changed my whole kind of outlook and way of looking at everything. It just totally changed everything. I was obsessed with doing triathlon at the time, and I'd been doing it for about 10 years. And I was doing Ironman, which is a very big um, discipline triathlon, which includes swimming, cycling, and then running in that order.
Yeah.
And I had kind of slowly worked my way up to this huge distance, and just was actually in a very sort of selfish way consumed with doing that all the time. So, and to the detriment probably of my family, because I was quite selfish and just going out and doing that all the time.
I know that the operation was quite traumatic, and let's
Yeah.
kind of go back to as much as you want to share about
Yeah,
that.
for sure. Yeah. Yeah. So the operation was, I think it was the most invasive experience in terms of anything that's ever happened to me, profoundly affecting experience I've ever been through. And that just far and away by anything I've ever experienced. It was like being hit by a train.
And I understand that it didn't just end there, did it? Like you then had some complications.
Off the back of that, I was obviously laid low and my defences were very low, and I got pneumonia, and I lost 2 stone, and I had 2 further operations on my lungs. When you get to that place where you are rock at the bottom, and you're that ill, it's just the core things which really matter, like your loved ones, like your wife or your children or your parents, that are the things that actually matter. None of the other ephemera, all that stuff, really is meaningless.
It
And it's
disappears into
just
the background.
those things that matter. In a sad sort of way, it's a shame it takes something as big as that to make you realize that. And in a funny sort of way, I'm kind of grateful that it did, because I think a lot of people go through life. I think a lot of people fly through life, and the only time they're ever really ill is just before they die.
Does working for Hidden Disability Sunflower, is that helping you with your own, your own mental health? I mean, obviously with your heart, it can have, I'm sure it's made a difference because we work from home, so you don't have the stresses of commuting, which could put a pressure on your heart. But from the mental health side of things, has talking to other people and listening to their experiences, does that help you sort of fill in some slots for yourself?
Yeah. So actually, I really do enjoy talking to people, and that's how we all have different ways of coping with situations. And one of the ways that I deal with that, or find it helps me, is to talk. So yeah, the short answer is yes. I do get something back from talking with people and having those conversations, and um, it's interesting to find out their experiences and how they cope with them, and to relate to that as well from time to time. And I find that very interesting.
Have you also got asthma?
I do. I have asthma. I've had asthma since I was 10. It ebbs and flows with my asthma, but I've had asthma. I used to have bad asthma attacks when I was younger, and my parents used to help me with that. The Ventolin is the immediate relief, and
Yeah.
the purple one is the steroid. I used to never leave the house without it, because it would act as like a security thing, like just having that on me. If I didn't have it, I would panic, because I would be concerned that if I was somewhere like at work and I didn't have a spray on me, where would I find that relief?
I think that's the beauty of these conversations, videos, podcasts, is really having a chat with a person, an actual person, not a representative of a company, but an actual
Yeah.
person, and just listening to their everyday life
Yeah.
experience. Can I ask, like, when did you realize or recognize that, oh, actually, I have invisible disabilities?
That's a good question. I think that, do you know what? First of all, I think that everybody has invisible disabilities of one sort or another, and that can be a number of different things. I think it can be whether it's something in your head like a little bit of self-doubt. I think that is a form of hidden disability. So I think that we all, in one shape or another, have hidden disabilities. I think that's the first thing to say. I think I've always been aware for a very long time that I have hidden disabilities. And actually, how to describe them is something that this brand has given me. So by that, I can say I might have described it in a slightly different way prior to this. Now that it's here, I can't believe it didn't happen sooner. And I think it's really important that people have a voice for something that's hidden. And I think that that's a really good thing, a really good thing.
When you're recording these and also from sharing your own story, what do you hope listeners feel? What reaction, like, what do you hope comes out of these sunflower conversations?
I think it's very, very good for other people who are experiencing similar conditions, similar experiences, to listen to those individuals and to hear what they have to say, and to perhaps pick something up from it that may help them. I also think that as a business, I think the Sunflower should be doing this. I think that it's our duty to be speaking to people with hidden disabilities and learning about them from those individuals, and how that they manifest and how they deal with them, and what situations and conditions they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. If you can break through to someone and help them, and if this helps somebody, even if it's just by getting a reaction that they appreciate, then it's good, isn't it? That for me is the bit that really I think is good, and that's why I like doing what I do.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you feel you have any of the health conditions discussed today in the podcast with Paul and I, please contact your GP as a first point of call.